You're watching a TGM production. When was your first experience of Doctor Who, and how did it make you a fanatic?
Well, I can't actually remember. It was sometime probably between the age of sort of 4 and 6, maybe. Uh, I know my dad used to watch it when he was a kid, and around about that time in the early 90s, there would have been the repeats on BBC Two of what started out in the Pertwee years. And I do have a memory of watching The Green Death. So I don't know if The Green Death was the first one I watched, but I do know I watched it around that time. I also have a vague memory of watching the Peter Cushing movies around the same time. So I couldn't tell you what my first Doctor Who experience was with any sort of firm memory, but it was something. It was probably either a Pertwee or the Peter Cushing movies. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, well, I have that issue too. I just, you just grow up with these things, and then you forget when the first time your eyes lit up when it's the most incredible program
Yeah, I
ever.
kind of envy the people that are probably between our two ages, the people
Mm.
that are in their sort of mid 20s, that uh, that have firm memories of the first time they watched it, because they were about 8 or 9 when in 2005 when it came back on. So there's a very clear point where they can go, "Yep, I started watching with Rose," and but I don't. I have no idea what episode I started with.
Yeah, and so what is your favorite classic Who story?
Oh, that's a tough question. I still haven't seen them all. I still haven't seen every classic Who story that is available. I'm a very slow completist. I do want to complete it, but I find it very hard to get the time to get around to watching them all. So I've watched most of the Hartnell run, and I really like some of those really early ones actually. Things like the Keys of Marinus, I really like. That's a great one of the Hartnell era. And then I've what else have I watched recently? There's things like, well, I'm a massive sort of multi-Doctor story fan, and actually one of the first bits of home media I ever owned was the Five Doctors on VHS. That's how old I am. In the sort of mid 90s, I owned uh, the Five Doctors on VHS because I had a bit of, I don't know, Christmas money or something. I
Mm.
wanted to buy a VHS, and the Five Doctors, you get five doctors for your money instead of just one. So I thought that's the one I'd go for. So that has a very nostalgic place in my heart too.
Yeah, and with completing watching the whole of Doctor Who, which is what I'm trying to do as well. It's very hard because not every episode that was ever broadcast is still knocking around in a compatible format, because a lot of it's like the BBC have got to it a little bit too late, or they've found it but it's not salvageable. And going through with Lost Stories, and Big Finish do a lot. Which Lost Story would you like to see being animated from Big Finish?
Oh God, from Big. So which story
The
uh,
lost. What are the
that
lost
was
ones
like
that
one of the
they?
lost ones that the BBC scrapped, so
Yeah,
that they filmed it and then scrapped it, like one of those ones.
yeah.
Probably Dalek's Master Plan. I
Mm.
think that's the one that I would be most interested in. Daleks. Everyone loves the Daleks, and it's one of those epic ones that I think most people would really want to see that.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like what looking at like audios and then seeing them animated, because a lot of fans
Yeah,
online have done that as well to try and show that you can do it, even though they made it so it's more for your ears and you listening. And
yeah. There's a guy actually that I saw recently that I don't know if you've seen him. He's been animating like little bits of Eighth Doctor audios.
yeah,
It's what's his name? I've got to remember it because I'm going to try and find it, because I saw him tweet something earlier on today, and it
yeah.
was a really good little. It was just a sort of sketch drawing animation of Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller one.
Oh,
Uh,
I
uh,
think I think I know what you mean.
did you see it when they were
Yeah,
running through the rain
yeah,
and it turned out to be mucus rain?
yeah.
I really wish I could remember what his
That
name was.
I think that's
But
just perfect. It shows what the fans can do.
Yeah, and it's such a great. This guy does a great animation style as well. It's really good, and um, yeah, I think Big Finish should hire him
Yeah.
basically,
Or the BBC, if you're watching
or the BBC.
BBC, please hire fans to animate episodes. It's probably cheaper than
Blue
using
Fruity,
people. Yeah.
that's his Twitter handle, Blue Fruity. Very
Yeah.
good animation.
Yeah, the link will be in the description on YouTube if I remember, which I probably will or won't. Who knows? We'll find out. Now, a Big Finish, I think, since Doctor Who and when Doctor Who's not airing between series, Big Finish is there to fill the gap. What's your top 3 favorite Big Finish stories?
Oh yeah, you asked me to think about this before I came on, and I really struggle because my mind, I constantly change what's my favorite, and it's a lot of recency bias. Whatever's in my head because I've listened to it recently is currently my favorite. But I tried to think back a little bit. I'm a massive Eighth Doctor fan with the audio stuff, so I have every Eighth Doctor audio. So on CD, I picked out. Well, actually, the whole of this sort of Time War run is brilliant, but particularly volume 4 with the Davros stuff was really good. Some brilliant stuff there. Another Eighth Doctor one was An Unearthly Child. An Earthly Child, which is one where he visits Susan and finds out he's got a great grandson as well. And there's a lot of really good emotional stuff in that, and great character work in that one. So those two are really good. And then the other one I don't have on CD because it was a short trips. There is, and I think it was one of the Paul Spragg ones, winners. It's called Forever Fallen by Joshua Wanisco, I think is how you pronounce his name. And it's a Seventh Doctor short trip. And it's, when I listened to it, I was captivated throughout the whole thing. It's basically, the premise of it is, all those times we see the Doctor give the villain one last chance to change their ways and not go through with their plan, because he always does. Like, don't do this. What if the villain actually took him up on it and went, okay, I won't do it? And then what would happen next? And it's a really engaging story, and it kind of delves into, can someone be redeemed? Can someone come back from that? Can someone be de-radicalized? It's a really interesting story.
Wow. And with the Time War and that, I like how they continued Susan's story in Susan's War, which sort of like says they've not forgotten about her. The actor's still alive. I think she was still alive when she recorded it.
Yeah.
And it's good how like they've used her to do something more than just sat around wondering will she ever appear back in the show, since William Hartnell promised that she'll feature in it again.
Yeah, and she's come back a few times since, because she was in the Five Doctors as well, of course. So she's now met quite a few of the Doctors. She met all the first, well, the 4 that came after the one that was her grandfather figure, and now she's met the 8th. So,
And one of my favourites that I'm currently listening to is the 6th Doctor one called The Middle.
Okay, I've not seen that one.
That's written by Chris Chapman, and the beginning of it is one of the great. It reminds me of the whole like Russell T Davies era, and it's about this world where no old people are left alive. When you reach a certain age, you get killed.
Oh, kind of the Logan's Run type thing. Yeah,
so you're taking over. So it's like a whole android, and they scan how old you are, and if you're like 30, you go into the middle and do work. If you the Doctor's age, you get pulled off and dead.
Oh no.
And you see how the Doctor, how the system can't even work out the Doctor's age, let alone the Doctor himself.
Yeah,
Can't work out how old. And with all these amazing stories, a lot for fans to get into. What's your favourite Doctor Who video you've ever filmed?
Oh, that's a good question. What is my favorite one? Sometimes, I don't know. I might have to go and have a look back through what I've got on my channel, because I've got a terrible memory and I forget them really quickly. I don't. Well, I mean, different ones for different reasons.
Mm.
So I did the series all about the Time Lord Victorious stuff, which I called the Time Lord Victorious Canon Update, uh, which basically I didn't want to review everything, but I wanted to do a video covering everything.
Mm.
So instead of doing reviews of this big multi-platform event, I did a kind of thing that what I wanted to do was create something that would be a useful resource. So every entry in the event, I covered in a video saying how it all ties in together, how the story connects, because it's quite an interconnected sort of spiral. If you plotted it all out, it's quite a complicated spiral diagram type thing. So I just wanted to provide a sort of continuity guide to it. So that was quite fun to do, and something a bit different. And I really enjoyed doing that. And I tried to have a bit of fun with it. So I did a few little comedy sketches in there as well. Did some stop motion with some Eagle Moss Dalek toys as well for a bit of comedy as well. So that was quite fun. I enjoyed doing that. I think it's the things where I get to be a bit more fun and just flex a bit of comedy muscle as well. So just even like simple edits of things where like around about the beginning of series 11 and 12, I did like little comedy just edits of things that were quite fun. There's those sort of things. I think things where I get to do a bit of comedy.
Yeah, and with your YouTube channel being like your home to home your creative stuff, would you ever? And I know it's like a hard thing to do because a lot of people do it. Would you ever make your own fan film or fan audio drama?
Yeah, I'd probably be more likely to do an audio drama. I have a background in working in audio drama from a behind the scenes point of view anyway, in my professional life. So I probably would be interested in doing that. So it's the time. it's one of those things which is like, that would be a great project to do. Yeah. But I know it will, like, getting around to it is the hard part. I'd have to write the script, and then it just takes a long time. Like I mean, to give you an example of how long it takes me to do anything, I've got a video coming out this weekend, which is my Doctor Who book collection. And I filmed it in February 2020. I filmed it over a year ago, and it took me this long to get around to editing it because there was a lot of sort of cutting, and I didn't just do it like I was going down a shelf and pulling them out. I sort of cut between each one, so there was a lot of editing to do on it, and it took me a year to get around to doing. So I have a feeling that if I tried to do an audio drama, I would like to, but it might take me a long time.
Yeah. And would you ever see yourself being in an audio drama of some description?
Yeah, I've been in other fan audios before. I've been in one of Miles Taylor's ones before. And I'm in one of the upcoming Dominic Martin's series that he's got going at the moment, Doctor Who Remnants. I'm in one of those that's coming up late in a month or so's time. I think it's due to be released. So yeah, I dabble in a bit of acting as well here and there.
Yeah. And speaking of fan audios, they're really, I think they're incredible. If you look at where Big Finish began and where Big Finish are, you hear and you think, incredible. And then you go to BBC Sounds and you listen to Doctor Who ones and the odd other bits and bobs, and that's incredible for what it is. But fan ones like Miles Taylor and then the Who Chasers and all those are just incredible. Out of the ones you've heard, which are your favourites?
Wow, the fan ones.
Yeah.
It's a good question. That's a good question, because it's difficult to answer. I'm going to defer on answering that just because now I've been in a couple of them. It feels like it would be slightly biased to say even not the ones that I've been in, but either of the two creators.
Yeah.
Because they do create absolutely great stuff, both Miles Taylor and Dominic G. Martin. So they create brilliant stuff, but it kind of feels like I'd be being a bit biased. And there are fantastic other creators out there as well. I probably haven't listened to anywhere near as much as I should of them. Mr. TARDIS's recent one was good as well. The Collateral of Ivanhoe, that was really good. I should probably listen to some more, really.
Yeah, and I think what would be really nice, because this community with all the creators do unite a lot. I reckon they should find to do like a load of different like series where you join all the doctors together. So like Miles and Dominic does their own doctors, and then a few other people do as well. So I reckon they should like do like a multi-doctor story, but with fan created doctors and fan
Yeah, and
created.
I know on the sort of fan film side of things,
Yeah.
I haven't watched many of them, but I gather that like there was a bit of that with some of those, the like the DW 2012 people crossed over with another one, and so there's been a bit of that, I think,
Yeah.
in the fan film bit.
Yeah, and because I'm a film person more than an audio person,
Okay.
so I do more visual things. Looking at the list of short films I've ever made, they've never been the greatest things. Some errors. There's one of the popular ones on this channel. I used blood, so ketchup, but it was really dark outside, so I just wasted ketchup on the floor. Just made a mess in the dark.
Yeah, and filming is so much harder. I
Yeah,
mean, that's not to take away anything, because audio is hard in its own
yeah,
way, but you just have to take into so many considerations, because you still have to factor in the audio, and you have to factor in the lighting and everything, sound and lighting, and you have to try and make it all work together. There's so much more with filming that you have to try and make work at the same time, which is why I don't think I would probably ever do
yeah,
that, because that's probably a bit too much to think about once.
yeah,
Whereas audio drama, you can relatively handle yourself. You can record independently different people's lines if you need to. Although I don't think that's necessarily the best way. Often it's a necessity, but from when I've done acting myself, I've always find it better to be in a room with people I'm acting against, so you can kind of play off each other, or at least on a line with them or something.
yeah. Yeah, because with audio you can easily simulate a monster with the audio, but with like visual you have to use VFX, which is in my personal experience very hard to do, because you have to work on what type of monster you want. You have to create it. You have to get the classic Doctor Who tennis ball, and you have to get the really good reactions to a tennis ball, which is what I think it was Tolson that said it in one of the panels he did a few years ago about how they were reacting to a massive monster, but it was just a tennis ball that they were actually looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you reckon they've watched themselves back? Do you reckon they've seen their own series?
What, the people
Yeah,
in
the
Doctor
people.
Who?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, that depends. Some actors, some actors are like, no, I never watch myself in anything, and others will watch absolutely everything. And there's probably some people in between that watch some stuff. I know if it was me, I would be watching everything I was in. Possibly not with other people present, because I'd be slightly cringing, but a separate, by myself, I'd definitely watch everything
Yeah.
I was in.
Yeah, because it is that thing where you like really excited to see yourself on TV. So you're doing
Yeah,
something that you really like doing, and you get to see yourself enjoying yourself, and you realise you made an error there, there, and there.
yeah,
Which
that's the worst thing. But
yeah. Now with all with all the audios and that, what's the first piece of home media that you remember ever buying?
well, I mentioned this earlier. The Five Doctors on VHS was the first sort of VHS. That was the first home media purchase I got. I only ever owned two VHSs. It was that, and then fairly soon afterwards, I bought a VHS called Daleks: The Early Years, which was kind of a documentary / clips of various Dalek stories from the William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton era. In fact, actually, the whole of that, what was on that VHS, has recently been released in one of the recent releases. I think it was on the last, I think it might have been on the Power of the Daleks re-release
Yeah,
animation one.
yeah,
So that I had that on VHS as well.
yeah,
Those were the two I had as a kid, and then I didn't have anything for many years after that until I started collecting the DVDs.
yeah.
I kind of went through a period where like I was into Doctor Who as a kid, and then it wasn't on the air at the time. So I as a teenager, I kind of didn't really engage with it much, and then came back to it again in the sort of early 2000s, like maybe a year before it came back onto telly.
Yeah, and with all the Blu-ray box sets that you can't really see because I've hidden it really well, but I've got one of them back there. And what do you reckon the future is of them? Because they've not done the first two Doctors, and they've not done any new. What do you reckon the future is of them?
I would imagine that if they will probably do them all eventually. Waiting to do the earlier ones gives more time to get the animations done, I suppose, if they're going to put the animations on there and where there's missing episodes. I would imagine if I was them, I would be thinking that I'd want to release the season 1 for the 60th anniversary. So release that in 2023. I would have thought that just seems to make marketing sense to release the first season on a big anniversary.
And speaking of the 60th, who do you reckon out of New Who and then the ones that are left from Classic Who do you reckon might return?
Oh, I don't know. I would love to see all surviving Doctors in it. I don't know if we would get that for the main thing, just because trying to find a story that I mean, I love the 5 Doctors, but if you analyze it from a storytelling point of view, it's quite fragmented. It's not it wouldn't, there are, whereas the 50th anniversary special, because they concentrated just on those 3 Doctors, they could have them together most of the time. They didn't have to split them up, and it made for a more interesting story overall. So I don't know. I think I would love them to get Christopher Eccleston back.
Yeah.
Who knows? Given the fact that he's more engaged now, has done the Big Finish stuff, maybe. Who knows? And maybe the others in cameos, possibly.
Yeah. Like they did with the 50th, where they had like different videos of them all around when they were in the control panel. But I reckon they should like film like new bits instead of clicking old clips. Yeah,
I agree. And actually, assuming hopefully Caroline Ford is still around, then getting Caroline Ford in it as well as the sort of only her and William Russell actually are both. If they could get them both in it, that would be great, because they are the only 2 cast members left from that first episode. If they can get them back in it, that would be great too.
And with the 60th anniversary coming along, I reckon they would add more merchandise and have stuff on sale and that. And with all of it, what would you want to see return? What format? Because I reckon that Big Finish should re-release like a couple of the cassettes that they used to do.
Yeah, they could do retro formats are all the rage these days, as evidenced by the constant vinyl releases that we're getting. But I have seen things like retro cassettes being released as well. So can you buy a cassette player now though? Is that going to be the next thing where
well, people are still making them, but I have seen recently that artists, when they release stuff, they're releasing on digital, CD, cassette, and vinyl.
Brilliant.
So Sony could re-release a Walkman, or Big Finish could make their own called the Big Finishman.
The Big Finishman, yes.
Yeah. It only accepts anything that Nicholas Briggs is in. and it's his voice when it says power on. It's Nicholas Briggs saying power on. That's a poor impression. Now going away from the main show a little bit, out of all the spin-offs that have been done within visual and audio, which one has been your favorite? If you've heard more, like which one's your favorite overall?
Visual, I'd say Torchwood has been my favorite. And on audio, probably the Gallifrey series. That's been really good. I've enjoyed that one. I've bought all of those. I finally caught up sort of late last year. I've been playing catch up on it for a while. I actually bought my first Gallifrey audio probably in about 2006, but then didn't buy any more for a long time afterwards. And so the last sort of couple of years, I've been playing catch up every time they've had a sale or something. I've bought a few more and I've finally caught up and all the way up to the Time War stuff as well. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, because it was a few years ago. Because there's something called Hoovian Amino, if you've ever heard of it, which is sort of a community for Doctor Who fans to chit chat. It's all about Doctor Who, and then there's a different type of aminos for anything. And I put on there about them doing a spin-off with Rose Tyler and about her in another dimension, and then really funnily a few years later, Big Finish then commissioned a one series box set of the Rose Tyler thing. Have you heard that?
Yeah, because there was Russell T Davies kind of toyed with the idea of doing the spin-off of it, didn't he? The Earth Defender or something it was called.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
What would you want to see in a K9 time quake type thing? Because it was ideas that it was going to happen, but then they never officially said whether it was cancelled or whether it was going to continue. It was just a little bit dead in the air. What would you want to see from it after we had the Australian K9?
Did you watch the Australian K9?
Yeah, it was on Disney XD for me.
Okay.
I didn't see it on Channel 5.
I only watched the first episode of that and I couldn't quite bring myself to watch anymore because it wasn't very good. But yeah, I don't know really. K9 is a difficult character to do by himself. You need a good supporting cast.
Yeah.
So I think you'd need like a more modernized design like they had in that Australian series. Wasn't there talk of Omega being in it or something?
Yeah, I heard that. But
that would be weird. I mean, like, why would K9 without any Time Lords be going up against Omega? I don't know, but
it wouldn't be strong enough.
Yeah, it would be a bit strange. So I personally wouldn't put Omega in it. I'd save Omega for Doctor Who. But yeah, I don't really know what I'd want from a K9 series. So you'd need a good supporting cast, I think.
Yeah, because I had seen on Amazon. I had always seen this on Amazon, but they were I don't know whatever happened to it, but it sounded odd. They were releasing a Bessie audio drama of the car Bessie.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of this?
I don't know. Is it recent?
Yeah, so it was earlier. It was very recent, and you can get it on vinyl, and it's about the adventures of Bessie. So it's like Brum, where Brum can't talk, but it's now Bessie, with just Bessie on her own, and I think they've got a narrator on board for it. But
Bessie Come Home?
Yeah,
is that it? Yeah. I'd seen that because I've bought because it's part of a range called Beyond the Doctor, which is that they've got sort of it appears to be a series of what companions and stuff have done after the Doctor. So I've bought the Romana one. I haven't listened to it yet, the Karios Ring, but I wasn't sure if I was going to get the Bessie one. I'm not sure about that. Maybe.
I was toying with it as well, but for me, Bessie's one of those cars that, because I'm such a big fan of Doctor Who, I so want it as like my first ever car. I want to be able to drive. I don't know whether it's road safe anymore, but I want to be able to drive down the road in a Doctor Who car, getting wet because of all the rain inside it.
Yeah. Topless cars. I don't know how. I hate the rain, so I don't think I'd enjoy it very much.
But I don't know whether it'd be road safe anyway, because
they're
really old now, and everyone's trying to go all electric rather than petrol.
True.
Or whatever.
But classic cars, if they're kept in good condition, can still be driven. You have classic car shows up and down the country all the time. So
how did you get into YouTube and the idea to create your wonderful channel?
Well, basically it has sort of two strands to it. One was an idea I'd had for years that I wanted to do, and I hadn't found a way of doing it. And it wasn't necessarily going to start off as a video thing, but I'd always had this idea to try and celebrate a different wacky holiday every day of the year. and it was, you know, National Burger Day. I did throw in a few traditional ones as well, like, you know, Christmas Day and
Yeah.
Valentine's Day and things. But to do something every day of the year, um, so I had this idea that I wanted to do that, and then similarly at a similar time that I was thinking, oh, maybe I could do this in video form. I had some friends who were doing a Doctor Who series on one of their YouTube channels, and they were reviewing every episode of Doctor Who after, like, immediately after it aired. That was called Doctor Who, Doctor Who Debrief, and that was on my friend Rob's channel, who's now doesn't do any Doctor Who stuff at all. He does travel vlogs now, but at the time he was doing mostly Doctor Who stuff. And so him and my other friend Chris, they were doing this series, and they invited me on to sort of just be a guest on it. And I hadn't done any YouTube at this point, and I had a really good time. It was just basically us sitting on a couch. We'd all watched it together, and afterwards just did a little review of it all together, like just discussing it on a couch. I thought that was quite a fun format. And after I guested again the following season on it again for just one episode, and I said to them, do you fancy doing this for classic Doctor Who as well? We could just start at the beginning and work our way through. And they were up for it. And he did. In the end, I was like, Rob, I can't remember if Rob didn't want it on his channel, or if we just felt like, oh, well, I could just do it. I could set up a channel to do it on. And I kind of had this account where I'd posted like the ice bucket challenge from many years ago, and a few other like a random video I'd edited from a trip to a music festival. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll use that and I'll do it on there. So we started that, and because their series was called Doctor Who Debrief, I called mine Doctor Who Rebrief, because it was the same format. It was like a spin-off of their show, but rebrief because we're reviewing old stuff. And we started like at the very beginning, William Hartnell, first episode, and we batch recorded them. We did it like they would come and stay at my house, and over one night we would watch 3 whole serials in one night. Watch a serial, record the review, watch a serial, record the review. And that's kind of how the Doctor Who side of things started. And then as I started to release those in beginning of 2017, I think that was right at the end of 2016, and then the beginning of 2017, I started doing the video a day celebrating holidays, little random videos every day as well. So that was the kind of the 2 bits of genesis of my channel. Eventually, they decided, my co-hosts on the rebrief decided that they'd had a bit of enough of it. They'd kind of burnt themselves out of Doctor Who a bit, and Robert decided he wasn't doing any more on his channel. I think it was after reviewing Class. They didn't like Class, and it had just sort of killed their joy of Doctor Who. So they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. So I had started by that point doing other Doctor Who content, and I just carried on with other Doctor Who content after that.
Yeah. And on your channel, as well as Doctor Who, you do all sorts from other places like Star Trek and Marvel and this, that, the other. And now with your love of Marvel, if you have one, who's your favorite Marvel superhero?
I don't think I do have one. I like a lot of them. In terms of their personality of the individual, Steve Rogers is, the kind of person that, just like, he's the one you can admire the most, I think. And has a grounding in like really good sort of moral character. They're all good in one way or another. I don't think I've got a massive favorite particularly.
And with Marvel being spread across several different like streaming services like Disney Plus, Netflix, and then you would say Hulu if you're in America, but it's on Star in the UK. Would you think that they'll ever like move the Netflix universe into the MCU with Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and
Wow, that's a point of contention, isn't it? Because some people are adamant that it's not part of the MCU, but my stance on it is what is on screen that matters. And yes, it was made by a different studio, but it was quite clearly established on screen by the fact that they reference stuff that happened in the movies. They reference the Battle of New York in the Netflix shows, that those shows are part of the MCU. And until they're contradicted otherwise on screen, that's my stance. They are the MCU. They are part of the MCU.
Yeah. And with Shield, I don't know if you've seen every series of
I have.
Shield, but the first series was heavily linked to the MCU. But what did you think? With the other series, did you think the other series had like stuck to linking to what the films were on about?
Yeah, they did heavily do it in the first series, and quite a lot in the second series, but not quite as much. I mean, they like literally picked up the pieces of the films in the first series. The second series was a bit more tangentially related, but they did reference a lot of stuff. And later on, you had them referencing the Sokovia Accords and things like that. So they carried on linking into it for quite like referencing it quite a while. I think there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that caused the sort of rift between the TV and the movie side of things, I think. Yeah. And from, was it series 5, they did some time traveling, which meant that there is even though in the story they claim they got back to their own time and their own universe, there's a bit of leeway there where you could say, well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they think they got back to their own universe, but they really didn't. So actually, it's a way of having those final few seasons not having to worry about what's happening in the movies. And it doesn't matter if it contradicts because they're over in a different universe because they've hopped over to it. But it's still the MCU.
Yeah. And did you ever see Inhumans? Because I saw it with my mum in the IMAX when they did the double bill at the IMAX where you thought it was one long episode.
Yeah, I did see the Inhumans. I've done a ranking of all the MCU TV shows on my channel, and that came last.
Yeah.
It had some good ideas, but some of the framing was like in terms of the guy that was the villain kind of shouldn't have been the villain. I mean, he was the royal family themselves were kind of the villains of their society, and he was kind of should have been the hero trying to free the people. But there we go. That's a whole different, and it was just a very gray TV series. There wasn't much color in it.
Yeah, and for me, what didn't work was when you saw it on TV, you had Shield on Channel 4 and E4 for the first series, and then that disappeared. Then you had all your DC TV shows on Sky, and then you had Inhumans randomly on Sky as well, which sort of don't work because they're trying to link. They're trying to say that they do superhero stuff, but it's like might confuse people that aren't as like loyal fans to the
show. Yeah, maybe. I think that's unavoidable when you're dealing with international markets. There are American shows that are being sold to the UK, and it who they're going to sell them to whoever pays the most money in terms of the TV channels. So the similar thing happened with the DC stuff where you got most of the shows going, I think, to Sky, but then Batwoman didn't. So even though that's set in the same continuity and in crosses over, they didn't have Batwoman wasn't being shown anywhere in the UK, which was a bit awkward when it came to the massive crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was told in 5 parts over all the shows, and the Batwoman part of the story wasn't being shown in the UK. So that's just one of those annoying things.
And for Crisis, which we'll get on to, is because of the way it was, I found the DVD for it so I could watch it all. And so what they did was they had Batwoman, they swapped the episodes around with when they aired series 1 on E4. So they had the crossover, instead of being near the beginning, it was like the very last episode. And then and then on the DVD you had Supergirl, Batwoman, Flash, Legends, and Arrow, but then you had to go to Netflix to go and watch Black Lightning, and that didn't really have an actual episode. They're all parts. They're all put in part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and then Black Lightning was you had to work out, you had to Google it and work out what episode that was linked to, and it would always be at the very end of the episode that they would reference the event.
Yeah.
And so about going on to DC, out of the DC TV series, which one would you say you preferred?
I've been meaning to do a ranking video of those as well, the Arrowverse. I might be Black Lightning, in terms of there are strongest individual seasons of some of the other shows, like the first 2 seasons of Arrow are amazing. And they're stronger than Black Lightning. But as a whole series, Arrow had some really weak seasons in it as well. So I think as a whole, I think every season of Black Lightning was really good. So it's just literally finished its 4th and final season in America.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say Black Lightning.
And that's what annoys me with the Arrowverse. You try and avoid spoilers, and with it like doing like a long break, and it's like, I don't know, like half a year later before you see it. Everyone talks about it, and you know so much about it already. There's sort of no point watching them. And do you sort of like how Sky sort of like air it in the same way America does, with the first part and then a break and then the second part?
How to answer this question without sort of implicating myself too much? I don't watch it on Sky, so I don't know how Sky does it.
What do you watch it on?
The other ways that allow me to watch it as soon as it's on in America.
Well, with Sky, you watch it and you get so invested in what's going on, and then it's Christmas, and then it's months later before you pick up where you left off.
That is annoying. And I know we're not talking about Doctor Who here, but it annoys me. Like when Doctor Who started doing that as well, they'd have the mid-season, like season 7 part 1 and then 7B as well, and it's just like the break in the middle. That really annoyed me as well. I prefer them not to be broken up.
Yeah, and for years now, or as ever long as I've known, there's always been dreams and fan edits of a Marvel versus DC film. Would you reckon that would work? Would Kevin Feige work well with whoever's running the DCEU, and how do you reckon they would be able to like link it up to each other?
I can't see them doing that for a very long time. Like Marvel, DC might be more up for it because they seem to be like trying loads of things, figuring that, oh, this doesn't work, then trying something else. But Marvel seem to know what they're doing, know what they want, and they have no reason to. Their films are massively successful. They've got lots of other things to build up to. So they just have no reason to do it. If they ever do a Marvel versus DC movie, it's going to be because they've kind of run out of other ideas and they think this is the best way to make loads of money. Yeah. So I don't think we'll be seeing it for a while.
Yeah. Because I heard recently, the reason why I brought that up, because I heard recently that Disney are in talks to buy out DC, as in the superhero brand, not the shoe brand. But it'd be quite interesting to see how they do that, because so it's sort of with Disney, they want to make sure that things link up, and I would think that Disney would have to make their own little Disney universe where some DC characters would like be faffing around with them. Then it makes more sense. And it's not like divided fans even more, saying, "Oh,
yeah." If they ever do it, it'll be these people are crossing over from another universe type thing. Yeah. But like I say, I mean, they've got so much on their plate. They've got to, before anything like that even remotely becomes a possibility, Marvel have got to introduce the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all of those characters, which they've only just acquired from Fox. So it's going to be a long time before we see anything like DC versus Marvel.
Yeah, and DC needs to sort of like sort out the odd bits and bobs, because in the Crisis, you sort of saw a little bit of link between film and TV with I think he's called Ed. Well, it's a Flash from the Justice League films that he had made a brief cameo before he disappeared, which sort of like says that the DCEU doesn't exist anymore.
Well, they only think the multiverse has been destroyed, but we already know that it hasn't, because at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the event, they showed us loads of new, like they showed, oh, this is now Earth, look what's happening now on Earth 2, and that's Stargirl, the TV series, and they showed various other ones as well. So that, yeah, the DCEU filmverse is just one of the universes in the DC multiverse. I'm hoping that in the Flash movie, because that's meant to be dealing with alternate universes, maybe we'll even see Grant Gustin's version of the Flash from the TV series in that for a brief cameo. That would be quite good.
Yeah, because I quite liked how with the TV series The Flash, they made a massive merge with the original Flash series from the 70s. And they brought the original Flash back to make it say that this TV show was old. We're going to bring him back just because one, the actor probably wants more work, and two, because it's.
Do you mean, are you talking about from the Flash played by the same guy that played his dad?
Yeah.
That's not quite from the 70s, not quite that long ago. It was a 90s TV show, that Flash.
Yeah, I must have been thinking of something else, because I saw you can buy a 70s Flash on iTunes.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is.
No, it looks like a Batman and Robin type thing.
Okay.
Like a pow, wow, and that type of thing. Now moving away from superheroes and time travel to more of a different type of travel, more to something you do on your channel that I think, beside Doctor Who, one of my favourite things you do on your channel is the amazing Everybody's Dead Dave podcast.
Yes.
Which is where you review Red Dwarf. How did that begin? Where did this idea come from? Because it's unique.
That began because I was watching one of Adam Martin, my co-host on it, videos on his channel. It was one of his he used to do a Sunday catch-up thing where he'd just answer questions. And somebody asked him about Red Dwarf, and he mentioned on it that he'd never seen it. And I knew Adam because I'd been on his podcast before. So I was like, how could you not have seen Red Dwarf? That's ridiculous. Because anybody that watches Adam's channel will know that he's massively into like BBC history and like just general broadcasting history, and being a sci-fi fan as well. I was like, you've got to watch it. So I just went to him and said, do you fancy doing a podcast? You know, I'd be someone that had watched it several times. You'd be someone with a different perspective of watching it for the first time. We could do a podcast. And he was up for it. So that's what we did.
Wow.
It kind of, I got the idea as well from, there are two YouTubers, Jesse Gender and Council of Geeks, who have a podcast called What the Frel, which is basically the same sort of setup of somebody that is already a fan of something and somebody watching it for the first time, but for the sci-fi series Farscape. And so I listened to their podcast and I was like, hey, that's a good idea. And Adam hasn't watched Red Dwarf. Let's do something like that.
Yeah, and that's a very adaptable idea that's like spun from one thing. You can do it for many different things. So I can see down the line, see that to be a whole genre of like type of podcasts. And with Red Dwarf, that it's one of those programs that's really amazing. And I have a lot of the episodes on DVD and the very first ever episode on VHS. And what I want to is that you will mention this on the podcast in the future. But I just want to know your opinion on it as a fan point of view. What did you think of like when it moved from Series 8 on BBC to Dave? Because when you watch it from Back to Earth to the final episode, the whole crew that was manifested, that was created, just disappears again, and they seem to never mention it. They only mention Kachansky's death.
Yeah, Back to Earth was a weird one, wasn't it? It's a strange little 3-part thing that kind of doesn't feel like the rest of Red Dwarf. At the time, I was excited because it had been like 10 years since there'd been an episode. So I was excited to see it when it came on. And and it had some good elements to it. Again, it's now been it's now been another 10 years since it was broadcast, and that was the last time I saw it. So uh, yeah, I can't remember it massively clearly. I mean, it'll be interesting to see when we get to it on the podcast. Yeah, it didn't quite work, but the later Dave stuff after that, when they did series 10, 11, and 12, and the more recent The Promised Land, which was last year, those have all been brilliant.
Yeah, and with Back to Earth, I thought it was a little bit odd when Dave Lister met Craig Charles.
Yeah.
It's like they've already given him enough work to do being on Coronation Street start off with. They can't, and it because Craig Charles is like, since doing Red Dwarf, has become more popular to do other stuff. So he was in Coronation Street for a while, and he's in the reboot. Well, you could technically call it a reboot of the Gadget Show, and he's all over the place now. And doing that just sort of felt a little bit odd, because it's like it would be more work for him, and it'd be harder to work out. And it'd be harder to work out for him who is he. He'll just be
One of the things Adam said when I think Adam said this, that he knew Craig Charles as the person from Robot Wars. So it was strange, like when he first looked into Red Dwarf, when I suggested it, that like, oh, he's an actor as well. I didn't realize that, because he didn't watch Coronation Street, so I didn't realize that. So he was just a bit surprised that he was an actor, because he sort of viewed him more as a presenter. So yeah, but he's now he's not on Coronation Street anymore. I don't know if Robot Wars is still running.
No, Dara O'Brien. Dara O'Brien did it, and then did a champion, and then that was it.
Yeah, so Craig Charles is now sort of mostly back to being a radio presenter on Six Music and doing Red Dwarf.
Yeah, and then he does the Gadget Show on Channel 5, which...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's not as you can tell, he's not a very techie person. So he does the presenting side, and then because the crew want to laugh, they send him to the house and they make him set up something with instructions, and they watch him just try and fumble about not knowing what's going on. And so you have to set up this smart light.
Yeah,
and you
I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and it's on My 5. The last, because it's on like series 33 or something. He's been doing it for a good few years now, and with Red Dwarf being this program that seems to never disappear, go on long breaks for how many years you want it to, then come back as strong as ever. Do you think that the Dave series is sort of like trying to capitalize on cameos of big other famous comedians, or do you reckon it's still stuck to its original BBC roots?
I mean, they've always had cameos. One episode we recently reviewed had, you might not have heard of it, but Ruby Wax had a cameo in it. And around the late 80s, Ruby Wax was a massive sort of TV personality, comedian person. So the BBC show, the version of it, also did that and had massive cameos as well. So I don't think it's any different in that respect.
Yeah, it's just when you look at it, you see, I saw like the episode Johnny Vegas is in, it's, you more like Dave were trying to get you there to watch it because of Johnny Vegas, not because it's the boys from the Dwarf. It's
okay.
Trying to capitalize on Johnny Vegas being a policeman wearing a pink police outfit.
Yeah.
That reason, but with Dave trying to like have their own original stuff since he lost Taskmaster to Channel 4, with the Promised Land, it was, and the first 3 million years are one of the best things that could happen in the Dave era. What did you think of the first 3 million years documentary series?
I actually haven't watched it. Surprisingly enough, I know, shocking. I did watch Promised Land, but I didn't get around to watching the first 3 million years.
Well, there's 3 episodes of the first 3 million years, and they talk about, they've said it on many documentaries, past and present, but they talk about like the American version and a bit more history.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that I found really interesting is that anytime you saw any ship flying in the air, it was all Jerry Anderson. It was all the Thunderbirds team
Yeah,
that did it all. And then when you watch it back, you realize, oh, it was, and it all
yeah,
makes, and it
which makes
all,
sense because
yeah,
their model work is fantastic,
yeah.
and a company like Jerry Anderson, that makes
Mm.
absolute sense.
Yeah, and with your podcasts on YouTube, you do really interesting things where you have like your characters on the screen with the voice with the
Yeah.
wave sounds. And what I was thinking is, would you ever want to try and like do like a one-off episode where you animate the characters to talk? 'Cause I feel like that would, because I was looking at them thinking that they would work really well in like a
They
animated
would.
cartoon.
I would love to do that. And I think it would probably be one of those things which would take me too long to do. Like I fully had the intention when I got those drawings done to do something like very basic animation, like just like have them walk in onto the screen
Yeah.
and like occasionally blink or something like that. And I haven't even got around to doing that because I commissioned the drawings from Sophie Isles, who
Yeah.
is a fantastic sort of artist who does a lot of Doctor Who stuff. And so she did those for me. And they look fantastic. But like I say, I just haven't got around to doing any
Yeah.
sort of even basic animation with them. I do like marvel at there's a YouTube channel Pup.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's just a system that he has, but I don't know how he does it. That like because he does it syncs up with his mouth. He syncs the dog animation up with his mouth movements. I don't. My skill. I could probably do a YouTube tutorial on how to do that, but I have not yet learned how to do that
Well,
in
there's
a
a
timely way.
well, there's an Adobe product called Adobe Character Animate, and what it is where you get your character on the screen, and when I talk, the character would move its mouth because it detects everything. So like you have to line up your face in with it
Yeah.
with the camera.
And
So
do you have to put in like loads of pre-drawn different mouth shapes?
well, no, they've got it all there for you, so it's
Ooh.
like already pre there. So when I first tried it out, I just got one of the pre-made circles with a mouth on it. I started talking about cheese, and it like moved every time I said the word cheese. The mouth would move, and it was on sync. And there's a YouTuber, I don't remember the name, where they did a load of Doctor Who, like when they like taking the Mickey out of Doctor Who, like the first series, and he's done a few songs of Doctor Who. I don't know if you've heard of him. He did one for series one where it's like it was all animated and it was like
Oh,
really quick
cool. Well,
version of
I might look
series
into
one.
that program then because
Yeah.
I have the full Adobe suite, but
Well,
I only use like 3 programs of it. So I use Adobe Audition, I use After Effects, and I use Premiere. That's it.
I only use Photoshop, After
Oh, and
Effects, and
Photoshop. Yeah.
Premiere. Yeah, I don't. Adobe Audition is good for if I want to do vintage effects, and they've got it preset. But I use Ableton, Ableton Light, which is free, that I use for recording like audio, which is
Okay.
I think is
See,
a little.
I sort of trained on the precursor to Adobe Audition, which is called Cool Edit.
Yeah.
And then Adobe bought Cool Edit. And so while I was at uni doing a media production degree, that's what we were using for radio production. And so I know the sort of I know that system. So it's nice and easy for me to use.
And with your podcast and your Red Dwarf podcast, I think is a fantastic idea. Would you do it? Would you do it again, like the same format but with a different show with different people on? Because I think that
Maybe.
with your knowledge, I think it would be really interesting. I was thinking because I am not a Star Trek fan. That might shock some people. I'm a Star. I don't like Star Wars or Harry Potter either, but that's another argument for another day. But because Star Trek's in so many different things, would that be something you would ever think of doing, like where someone's ever seen the original series?
Yeah, possibly. But I think would just time commitment wise, I think I'd
Yeah.
have to get this one over and done with first, and then maybe look at something. And I'd actually probably be more interested in sort of switching it round and me being the person that hasn't seen them
Yeah.
before. So I don't know what that would be, but something that somebody else is really invested in that I haven't seen, and me being the person experiencing it for the first time.
Well, I'm always full of ideas. I don't mind admitting this on YouTube because it's a good place to say. I have so many ideas, too many amount of the times of anything from the creation of all 9 of my YouTube channels to 5 of my podcasts. Well, a 5th one yet to be announced. Ooh, a little bit of hint there. The second one got cancelled. It was rubbish. And I was always thinking about it. And then when I heard your podcast, I was thinking of ways I could do it. And I was thinking of ideas, and then all my friends have seen everything before. And then I thought, oh, I've never seen Star Trek. And I was thinking I could do that, but then have no friends that actually like Star Trek
Okay.
or have recorded equipment in the first place. So and then I just thought, I'll scrap that idea. I'll put that in the drawing bin.
Yeah, or just keep it for a later time.
Yeah.
It's always good to come back to ideas.
Yeah, and one of my other ideas that I don't know if you've seen this program, but it was an idea where it's like a sort of spin-off from a podcast I do on my 9th channel, and sort of it'll be like
so many channels.
Yeah, I'll get on to them in a minute. I'll explain them to you in a minute. But with a Taskmaster, if you've ever seen it.
I know of it. I haven't seen it.
Well, I was thinking about doing something like that because even though I'm obsessed with Doctor Who, people in recent times I think have been obsessed with Taskmaster because really funnily the second interview after Adam Martin, because I interviewed him over on the main channel, I interviewed the wonderful Alex Thorne for this channel. So me and him have met each other. And so I was thinking of doing something like that because the idea works really well. You just have to think, you have to find a program that's you're really passionate, like Red Dwarf. There's so much of it. It's so easy to get really passionate on it, and you have to find something where you like it or don't like. I've never seen it, and I have to find someone else. That's the whole hard part, finding someone else.
Yeah, and Red Dwarf was also a good one because there is enough of it to do it and it to last a good year, and the podcast to last a year or two, but it's not so like Star Trek. There is a lot of Star Trek. Like even just picking one of the shows, there is so much more than there is of Red Dwarf because they do 22 episodes a season, and they do 7 seasons, whereas British shows tend to be a lot less episodes. So most seasons of Red Dwarf only have 6 episodes, so it's a more manageable thing.
So an idea that popped in my head that I am gonna say now because I find this really funny. But you could do like an outnumbered one. You would have to think of it, because that's why I struggle with podcasts. Is it's finding a really catchy name for it. So like the one that's a really good name that I'm so sad I never thought of was One Foot in the Podcast, which is a podcast about one foot in the grave.
One Foot in the Grave, yeah.
And then Monkey Tennis, which is an Alan Partridge podcast referencing something Alan said in I'm Alan Partridge. And then everyone said, how was it easy coming up with the name of your podcast?
No, I wouldn't say it's easy. It was easy. There were several ideas, and I'd say me and Adam went back and forth for about a week. I shot him a few ideas. I was like, "What do you think about this?" And he was positive about most of them. But I was never quite sure. And then I hit on that, and I thought, "Oh, we can have Holly saying it in the intro," and they all worked out quite well. And I wanted something catchy. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that were in the sort of short list. Boys from the Dwarf was another one that almost went with. That's the only other one I can remember, but there were a couple.
Yeah, because there's a few other Red Dwarf podcasts, such as Meghead, which is a few of them. There's a lot of like podcasts have now become the second best thing from video. If you're not, you're either doing, a lot of people are either doing YouTube or they're doing podcasts, because podcasts are now becoming the new radio. So when radio eventually sadly disappears, it'll all just shift over to a podcast, because that's what BBC Sounds are doing a lot. So a lot of like people now having podcasts on there, uh, and a lot of like fans are doing podcasts of everything. And out of the podcasts that you've heard, if you've heard any, what's your favorite podcast?
What, out of any podcast?
Yeah, out of any podcast.
I kind of fell out of listening to podcasts for a while. I've started to get back into them, which is terrible for somebody that works in radio. But I used to listen to a lot more than I did, and then YouTube has kind of taken over my free time and watching YouTube as well as making it. So I'm trying to think. There's a kind of radio drama one called Welcome to Night Vale, which is really good. At least it was last time I listened to it. I haven't listened to it in a few years. And there's lots of Doctor Who related ones, some of which I dip in and out of. Who Knew is I'm listening to regularly at the moment, and obviously Adam's podcast, AMTV Radio, I listen to every week. And then there's other ones which I dip in and out of, like Big Blue can't get my words out, but you know what, Blue Box podcast. I can't get my words out.
It's like a riddle.
Yeah. So there's a few Doctor Who ones. What else is there? There was, over the years, I've listened to there's a great British history podcast called the British History Podcast, which is really good as well. There's been loads over the years which I've liked.
And what's really interesting with all these podcasts, when you search it, when you have your own podcast, you search up like the genre it's in or something, and it's a big shock for you when you see it in like the first row, and you think, oh, you've beaten them, and then you're very close to them. So for me, with my Taskmaster World, the podcast, I've beaten the first ever in the list. I've overtook the first ever Taskmaster podcast, because Taskmaster themselves have made an official podcast, and I'm like well ahead of the first ever podcast that was ever made about Taskmaster, called Melon. I think it's either Melon Ball or Melon Head.
Nice,
referencing series 1, episode 1. But moving on to more of like comedy now, with comedy and sitcoms in general. If exclude Red Dwarf from this, what's your favorite sitcom that you've seen? It could either be when you were a child or now. It doesn't matter what genre, era. Well, it's sitcom, but what era or decade?
I used to be a big Friends fan. Like I owned every episode on VHS of Friends, and I think my wife owns every episode on DVD. I think it might be up the loft. I haven't watched it in a while. So for a while, Friends was a bit like in my teenage years. Watching Friends was the sort of main one. British ones I really like. You mentioned it earlier, actually. Outnumbered is a really good one. Just the kids in that are hilarious.
Oh, they are
just so good.
Ben's one of the greatest characters.
Yeah, and little Karen as well. She's great. And then what else was there? There's things like Stephen Moffat's old Coupling, which was really good. I really enjoyed that as well. That was good. And then I also like some really like old ones that I watched as a kid that were old when I was a kid as well, that were on repeats. Things like Dad's Army and stuff, because my dad used to watch them when he was younger, so he'd watch the repeats and I'd see those, and Hello and things like that. Yeah, some of the old classics.
And with all these, with all the British sitcoms, that was and I think someone must have mentioned it on somewhere I've seen, but what do you think of like remakes? Because this is something that I think is an interesting topic to go to. Is with remakes. They did a remake of Outnumbered that's never seen the light of day, but then I think there's a program called Outmatched, which I think must be, which is where they've got kids that are more intelligent than the parents. So I
Is he
think,
talking about American remakes?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's not particular, because with The Office has had an American remake and an Indian remake, the Hot
Okay.
Star, and then IT Crowd has had an American and a German one, and then Taskmaster's
Right.
had 15 different versions, and Gogglebox has had
Yeah,
15
yeah.
different versions.
Yeah, well, they're more like because they're format shows, aren't they?
Yeah,
So formats are easy to sell.
yeah.
And yeah, I I don't know. I've not really watched many. I have seen clips of the Red Dwarf one, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And I've never really. I wasn't into the British Office, so I never watched the American one either. So I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of the time the problem with the American remakes when they try and remake something, because I think they tried to do an American version of Coupling as well,
Yeah, they did.
is that they don't quite get the same. They don't have the same type of humor, so the jokes don't land in the same way, and
Yeah.
it just kind of doesn't feel quite right
Yeah,
most of the time.
yeah, and it's and they've done loads, but we'll go on to some of the new ones in a minute. But with them, it's like the ones that you watch and you think, "Ugh." The one I really don't like, because there's only a clip on YouTube which is called The Royal Guard, which is a remake of Dad's Army. Now
Yeah.
there's a bit in Dad's Army where Pike's on the chair and he's saying, and like, don't tell me your name, Pike, which is the classic line.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
they remake that exact scene in America, but with their specific words when they were singing the song,
Okay. Yeah.
and, and they don't land. But have you seen the trailer for the US Ghost?
I have. Yes.
Have you seen the UK Ghost?
I've seen some of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I have seen bits of it, and I really like it. I need to watch the what I haven't seen. Um, the American one, because when I first heard they were remaking it, I was like, oh god, that's not going to be good. And I watched the trailer, and I would say the ghosts themselves in the trailer actually quite impressed me, and I was like, oh, actually, the humor comes across really well with the ghosts from what I saw in the trailer. It's just a trailer; they're going to show the best bits, but I don't think the couple worked as well.
Yeah.
Again, it's just based on a trailer because of the type of personality differences that you get in like the American couple when they like the part of what makes the British one so funny is the main character's reaction to the ghosts.
Yeah.
And it's much more deadpan and kind of like fed up and just like very almost low energy.
Yeah.
But in a good way. Whereas the American one, I think their tendency is to make everything high energy. So therefore, the sort of woman character that moves into the house has a very different feel to it in that trailer than the British one, and I'm not sure that's going to work as well.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, but a few people that I've seen recently have been comparing that they think that Coupling might be the UK remake of Friends and that.
Yeah, that was a comment at the time as well, I think.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of similarities. I think the humor is very different, but the basic premise of it's 6 friends, half of which are male, half of which female, going, socializing, they're romantic. There's a lot there. The basic premise is similar, but the I think the type of humor and the jokes are very different.
Yeah. And so going back a few years now, what was your favorite, to wrap up this wonderful interview, what is your favorite TV show as a small wee child?
Oh, how old are we talking? Because I, probably changed
whatever age.
whatever
you were a
age.
child
Well,
at.
funnily enough, this is, I think it might be my topic for my, I don't know when this is going out, but my, I've started doing a monthly live stream.
Yeah.
And I think my next topic is going to be childhood TV programs. So I'll probably talk about these in more depth then. But like when I was really little, I was quite into Thomas the Tank Engine.
Mm-hmm.
I had Thomas the Tank Engine wallpaper, I had Thomas the Tank Engine bed sheets. My dad worked on the railway, so I think that's probably where the influence came from. Then sort of age 8, ish, I got into Power Rangers, which was new at the time. It was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The original had just started. It was when like Power Rangers was massive back then, and I had lots of the toys and stuff. So that was kind of that era. In terms of my main fandoms, teenage years is more like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, that's amazing, Buffy. That's one of those shows. It's when you watch it now and then you realize that you see, because I can't remember what he's called, but the one that plays Spike ended up being in Torchwood.
Yeah, James Masters. Yeah,
And then when you Google it, I only realized because you don't see the similarity because his hair and his whole face.
And his accent, because obviously in Buffy he's playing a British vampire, but he's not British. The actor's American.
Yeah, and with like a lot of the programs from years ago of like don't like stick and you don't see younger kids go into them. What's one show that you watched as a child that would you show to your kids now?
When my kids are old enough, I'll probably show them Buffy. I think it's a good show that has a lot of good messaging in it as well, and good themes and stuff. Obviously, there's issues around the creator of it at the moment, but I mean, detaching that, there's a lot of people that worked on those shows, and it's not all Joss Whedon, and I think it's a good show, and the other people that worked on it put a lot of effort into it, and I don't think that should necessarily be forgotten. So at some point, probably that. Obviously Doctor Who at some point. I've started, my daughter's now 6 years old, so I've started to introduce her a bit to Doctor Who and watching some of it, the ones that I don't think will scare her too much.
Yeah. And so to wrap up the interview, what is the most recent DVD you purchased?
The Blu-ray Steelbook of Doctor Who Series 6.
Wow.
Which I bought off of eBay.
Wow.
Which arrived yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. So thank you for coming on to this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. There'll be more interviews coming soon. So keep your eyes peeled